My mother was the Queen for a very long time. And although you kind of know that this might happen, you don't really think about it very much. Not least of all because the monarchy is about continuity.
For many years, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip were seen as one of the strongest couples in royal history. Behind the palace walls, however, there were private choices that very few people knew about. Now, Princess Anne is said to be revealing the truth behind a secret arrangement that shaped her parents' marriage for decades. So what was this hidden agreement, and why was it kept from the public for so long? Could it explain how they stayed together through years of pressure, duty, and endless public attention? A royal union under strain. The marriage of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip lasted for many decades and was closely watched by the public as they faced the constant pressure of royal life. To most people, they looked strong, united, and steady. However, life behind the palace walls was much more complicated. The heavy responsibilities of being part of the royal family sometimes put pressure on their marriage. Princess Anne, their only daughter, has spoken about how her parents' royal duties affected their relationship in ways many people did not see. Wearing the crown came with huge responsibilities, and Queen Elizabeth often had to focus on duties that reached far beyond her own family. For Prince Philip, being the husband of a reigning queen was not easy because there was no clear example for him to follow. Although he held the title of Duke of Edinburgh, he had no real political power, and royal traditions gave him very little guidance about his role. He had to find his own way while living under strict royal rules. During public events, he usually walked a few steps behind the Queen as a sign of respect. This was difficult for someone who valued his independence. Even with the benefits of royal life, it required strict discipline, constant public attention, and a lifelong commitment to duty. Philip had been used to the freedom of serving as a naval officer, so adjusting to royal life was difficult. People who worked inside the palace said he could give advice, but had very little influence over important decisions. Having so little control sometimes created tension at home. Philip was well known for his strong character and direct way of speaking, and he found it hard to accept always being second to the Queen. Although he supported her in public, he privately struggled with the limits of his position. He often felt restricted by royal rules and wanted a greater sense of purpose than the monarchy allowed him to have. Princess Anne has described her father as an active man who always liked to stay busy and disliked doing nothing. Royal duties often limited that part of his personality. She said that although Philip was deeply loyal to the crown, balancing that loyalty with his desire for independence remained a constant challenge. Even with his strong devotion to both his family and the monarchy, he continued to face an inner struggle between personal freedom and the demands of his royal position. During the 1950s, rumors began spreading that Prince Philip had a relationship with a famous Russian ballerina who was often identified as Galina Ulanova. No solid evidence has ever proved that such a relationship existed, but the rumors attracted a great deal of public attention. Some reports claimed that the stories placed pressure on the marriage of Elizabeth and Philip. There were also claims from some insiders that the government may have tried to keep the rumors from becoming a bigger issue because they feared they could damage the reputation of the monarchy, especially during a period of tense relations with the Soviet Union. The idea of a British royal being connected to a Russian ballerina was also viewed as a possible security risk. Whether the stories were true or not, they became part of the discussion surrounding their marriage and still interest historians and royal followers today. Even with these difficulties, Elizabeth and Philip worked hard to present a united image. One palace insider claimed that one particular event caused the Queen deep emotional pain, but her strong sense of duty came before her personal feelings. She decided not to speak publicly about private matters, even while living under constant public attention. Prince Andrew, their second son, often defended his father by rejecting claims that Philip had been unfaithful. He described him as a loving husband and a devoted family man. Even so, the rumors continued for many years, showing the difference between the public image of the royal family and the private questions that surrounded them. Some people believed the stories were completely false, while others felt they reflected Philip's desire for a life with more freedom beyond his royal responsibilities. But is this really what transpired, or is there something hidden? Let's uncover the truth. Last chapter of a royal marriage. Before the COVID-19 pandemic spread across the world in early 2020, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip decided to stay together at Windsor Castle. During the lockdown, they spent their days with each other, away from the public and their usual royal duties. This unexpected time together became very meaningful, giving them the chance to enjoy each other's company in the later years of their lives. For their children, it was a rare and emotional experience to see their parents become close again. However, there was more to the reason why Prince Philip had lived separately during his final years. Princess Anne explained that Philip's decision to stay at Wood Farm instead of living with the Queen was made for several reasons. People close to the palace said he enjoyed having his own space, and disagreements with some members of the Queen's staff also influenced his decision. At first, their children believed the Queen and Philip had simply agreed to live this way. Later, they began to think there may have been deeper reasons behind the arrangement. For many years, there were rumors that Prince Philip had an affair with a Russian ballerina in the 1950s, but no proof was ever found. Some people believe that moving to Wood Farm may not have been completely his own decision. Others claim that members of the Queen's staff quietly encouraged him to live separately, adding more mystery to his final years. Even with these difficulties, Princess Anne said her parents grew much closer again during the lockdown. She remembered peaceful moments when they sat together and looked back on their long life as husband and wife. Although Philip's health became weaker, he kept his quick sense of humor and sharp mind, helping to comfort the Queen as they faced the final stage of their lives. Princess Anne said her parents rarely talked about the time they lived apart, but the respect they had for each other was always clear. She believed their relationship was stronger than words and admired how they accepted each other's decisions with understanding. When Prince Philip passed away, it was a great loss for the royal family and marked the end of an important chapter in their history. Prince Andrew said it was a time of deep sadness, but also one of pride. He remembered his father's strong character and the calm way he faced every challenge in life. Princess Anne, who shared a very close relationship with her father, spoke emotionally about saying goodbye. She recalled that during their final conversation, Philip clearly shared his wishes. He asked her not to be sad for him, but instead to celebrate the life he had lived. It showed that even though he had lived apart from the Queen, he remained deeply connected to his family and the legacy they shared. The fact that Philip and the Queen lived separately during his later years made his death especially emotional for both the Queen and their children. At the same time, it showed the unique strength of their relationship, which lasted through many years, periods of separation, and constant public attention. Although the Queen was widely known for her strength, people close to the royal family said she felt a deep sense of loss after Philip's death. They also said she found comfort in knowing that he had been able to live according to his own wishes. Their time together during the pandemic brought both happiness and sadness, helping their children better understand the many different sides of their parents' relationship. Princess Anne's memories of her father's final wishes added even more emotion to this part of their story. She said Philip wanted his family to remember him not only as a loyal husband, but also as a man who valued his independence and chose to live life in his own way. Prince Charles also honored his father, saying that Philip had spent the last 70 years giving remarkable service to the Queen, the royal family, the nation, and the Commonwealth. However, he praised his father's loyalty, hard work, and endless energy in supporting his mother throughout their marriage. But did Prince Philip really betray the Queen? And why has this story returned to the spotlight after so many years? Let's take a closer look at what really happened. Prince Philip's secret friendships. The marriage of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II lasted for more than 70 years. During that time, they lived under constant public attention while carrying out royal duties and dealing with personal challenges. Their relationship attracted people from all over the world. Prince Philip was often seen as a charming and confident man who easily attracted attention, especially from women. Over the years, many stories claim that he had romantic relationships with other women, but no clear evidence ever proved that he had been unfaithful. Even so, the rumors continued because of his popularity his royal position, and the glamorous life he lived. One of the women most often connected to Prince Philip was actress Pat Kirkwood. She was a famous stage performer during the 1930s and 1940s and was known for both her talent and her beauty. The well-known critic Kenneth Tynan once described her legs as the eighth wonder of the world, showing how admired she was. Reports said that Philip and Kirkwood met 7 times, but Kirkwood always insisted that they never had a romantic or physical relationship. Even after denying the rumors many times, the gossip refused to disappear. She even asked Prince Philip and the royal family to publicly deny the stories, but Philip chose not to respond, allowing the rumors to continue. Michael Thornton, a close friend of Kirkwood, later said that Prince Philip was upset by the endless gossip. Philip reportedly said, "Short of starting libel proceedings, there is absolutely nothing to be done." He also described the false stories as the bane of our existence, showing how much they bothered him. Kirkwood also spoke about the unfair pressure women faced. She told a journalist, "A lady is not normally expected to defend her honor. It is the gentleman who should do that. I would have had a happier and easier life if Prince Philip, instead of coming uninvited to my dressing room, had gone home to his pregnant wife on the night in question." Her comments showed how difficult it could be for women whose names became linked to famous men, even when there was no proof of any relationship. Pat Kirkwood was not the only woman whose name was connected to Prince Philip. Over the years, many others were mentioned, including television presenter Katie Boyle, singer Helene Corday, actress Merle Oberon, writer Daphne du Maurier, Princess Alexandra, who was Queen Elizabeth's cousin, and the Duchess of Abercorn. The Duchess of Abercorn described her friendship with Philip as a passionate friendship, but she strongly denied that it ever became romantic or physical. When asked if she believed Philip had affairs with any of his female friends, she answered, "I doubt it very much. No, I'm sure not. But he's a human being. Who knows? I don't. Unless you are in the room with a lighted candle, who knows?" Her response reflected the mystery that always surrounded Prince Philip's private life and showed why people continued to speculate. Another woman often linked to Prince Philip was Penelope Penny Knatchbull, the Countess Mountbatten of Burma. Penny was a close friend of the royal family and was married to Norton Knatchbull, the grandson of Philip's uncle, Louis Mountbatten. Although there was never any proof that they had a romantic relationship, many people noticed how close they were. Penny was one of only 30 people invited to Philip's private funeral in April 2021, showing how important their friendship remained until the end of his life. Their close relationship was also shown in the 5th season of the Netflix series The Crown, proving that public interest in Philip's personal life still continues. Several royal biographers have also written about these rumors. In her book Elizabeth II, Her Life in Our Times, published in 2011, Sarah Bradford claimed that Prince Philip had several affairs. She wrote, "The Duke of Edinburgh has had affairs, full-blown affairs, and more than one. He has affairs, and the Queen accepts them. I think she thinks that's how men are." Bradford also claimed that Philip had a particular type when it came to women. She wrote, "He's never been one for chasing actresses. His interests are quite different. The women he goes for are always younger than him, usually beautiful and highly aristocratic." But how did they meet? Was it by chance? Let's find out. Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth love story. Elizabeth and Philip's love story started many years before they fully understood the duties and challenges that life would bring. They first met in 1934 at the wedding of Philip's cousin, Princess Marina of Greece, and Elizabeth's uncle, the Duke of Kent. However, it was 5 years later, when Elizabeth was 13 years old, that she really began to notice him. During a visit to the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, where Philip was training to become a naval officer, his cheerful and confident personality caught the young princess's attention. One well-known story says that Philip jumped over tennis nets to show off, leaving Elizabeth with a memory she never forgot. Although their royal duties and the places they lived often kept them apart, they stayed in touch by writing letters to each other. Philip, who was 5 years older than Elizabeth, shared her energy and curiosity. Even when he was young, people knew him for his quick sense of humor and his honest way of speaking. Elizabeth enjoyed these qualities and admired how open and genuine he was. Their relationship was not easy from the beginning. Philip was born into the royal families of Greece and Denmark, but his childhood was difficult. He had to leave Greece while he was still a child and grew up away from the comfortable life that many royals enjoyed. Many members of the British royal family and the government believed he was not the right husband for the future queen because he was not wealthy and did not have strong connections to a stable country. Even with these concerns, Elizabeth did not change her mind. Years later, Philip asked her to marry him, and she happily said yes. Their engagement remained a secret until after Elizabeth celebrated her 21st birthday. People close to the family said Elizabeth never doubted her decision and stayed loyal to Philip despite the criticism. On November 20th, 1947, Elizabeth and Philip were married in a beautiful ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Before the wedding, Philip gave up his Greek and Danish royal titles. He became the Duke of Edinburgh and adopted the English form of his family name, Mountbatten. Their wedding was a grand celebration filled with royal traditions and ceremonies. But what were the first years of their marriage like? Was it that of love and compassion? Let's take a closer look. Early years of marriage. In the first years of Elizabeth and Philip's marriage, their lives changed in many ways as they settled into their new roles. They enjoyed a quiet and happy period in Malta, where Philip was serving in the Royal Navy and was quickly promoted. In 1950, they welcomed their first child, Charles, and not long afterward, their daughter Anne was born. During those years, they had a chance to step away from the constant demands of royal life. They enjoyed living more like an ordinary family, something they both appreciated. They spent time attending dances, enjoying formal dinners, and going out together, giving them rare opportunities to relax and enjoy each other's company away from the public eye. Everything changed in 1952 when Elizabeth's father, King George VI, passed away. Almost overnight, the young princess became queen and took on the huge responsibilities of leading the monarchy. Philip also faced a major change as the husband of the new queen. He had to find his place beside a reigning monarch, a role that had few clear rules or examples to follow. This new situation changed the way their marriage worked as Philip tried to balance his own goals and identity with his royal duties. Even with these challenges, Elizabeth and Philip became known as a strong and united couple. They stood together through difficult times and showed the world their loyalty, determination, and lasting love while dealing with the many demands of royal life. Behind the grand palace walls, however, their marriage was not always as perfect as it appeared. Their love for each other was genuine, but they were both determined people with different personalities and different views about royal duties. Philip was confident, outspoken, and sometimes willing to break royal traditions or ignore certain rules. Elizabeth, on the other hand, was quieter, more careful, and strongly believed in following tradition. Although they usually kept their disagreements private, there were times when their differences became noticeable in public. People close to the family said Philip often wanted a bigger role in royal affairs, which sometimes led to serious discussions between them. Even so, Elizabeth respected Philip because he always spoke honestly and never agreed with her simply to avoid an argument. Their marriage was built on love, trust, mutual respect, and the understanding that disagreements were a natural part of their relationship. They also knew that their personal happiness often had to come after their duty to the crown. So what do you think about Princess Anne's shocking revelation? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.